Okay, yep, we should be ready to go.
Coolio. Okay, thank you very much for joining the 9th week of the Tinkerbell contributors meeting. It looks like there's a couple of things being added into the topic section of this week's contributors meeting. So welcome everybody. I don't know if there are any new faces or not. If there are new faces and anybody who would like to introduce themselves, your option to do that is now. If you want to do it in the next 5 seconds or so. Alrighty. Well, thank you very much, everybody that's joined. As mentioned, there is now a code of conduct that is part of our contributors meeting. So if you want to read more about that, then the link is there. And we have currently 3 topics for discussion this week. The first one being a demo of Locomotive with Tinkerbell.
All right. So yeah, last week we talked about onboarding new projects for the Tinkerbell organization, and it was like mostly around the Terraform Provider for Tinkerbell,
yep.
Which I'm currently working on. And yeah, I'm working on that because I'm adding support for like deploy Locomotive clusters using Tinkerbell. So Locomotive is Kubernetes distribution from Kinfolk. Yeah, and I just wanted to share like how it's working and what's the state of this work, because some people were interested.
Cool.
Okay.
Sharing.
So let me just share my screen. Can I share the screen? Someone else is sharing. Great.
It actually says all participants can share. Is that not true? Oh, good. Never mind.
Yeah. All right. Can you see it well?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so in Locomotive we have we use HCL for like a declarative configuration of the clusters, and here you can see the example configuration of the cluster using Tinkerbell. So what I did right now is that in the configuration, so if you have the Tinkerbell already installed on your network and you have some hardware registered, then you need to provide the IP addresses for the control plane nodes and for the worker pools. And then our CLI tool LocalCL will like take care of everything. And if you don't have Tinkerbell and you want to just like try it out like Locomotive with Tinkerbell, then I also implemented something like some alternative, which we also use in our CI system. So it's called the Tinkerbell Sandbox, which is built into this. So it adds just one more node to the network, and it deploys the Tinkerbell Sandbox from GitHub in there, and then uses that to also creates nodes. Yeah, and then uses that to deploy the cluster. So yeah, I have some machine running here with the cluster, which is already deployed, and the sandbox is using libvirt for to create the virtual machines. And yeah, here you can see that yeah, that we have a separate network and separate storage pool for the cluster, and it has the Tinkerbell provisioner running one machine, and then there is one controller node and yeah, one worker node. So for instance, if I SSH, yeah, of course. So if I SSH to the yeah, to the provisioner node, it's running Flatcar. So basically all the machines are running Flatcar container Linux. And yeah, here you can find like similar, like familiar files for deploying like Tinkerbell from Sandbox. So I had to slightly modify the provisioning process because it wasn't like fully automated. In our case, like everything is done from Terraform. So I will show you the logs in a minute, more or less how it looks like. Yeah, so maybe let's go here again. Let's jump onto the Tink CLI container. And yeah, here you can see that there are two workflows for the worker and for the control machine. And yeah, of course, it shows the action in progress because the Tinkerbell is not able to reboot the nodes yet. But yeah, you can see that the Flatcar has been installed here, and like there was some interactions with Tinkerbell. Yeah, other than that, I have the one second. Yeah, I have access to the cluster, which is running like on those virtual machines. So it's like functional Kubernetes cluster. And for instance, you can install some locomotive components on it. So some like predefined set of software, which we recommend for production clusters. So for example, here we have like Flatcar container Linux update operator, which like shadows the reboots of the nodes, and so it drains the worker nodes automatically and reboots them when there's an update pending. Yeah, so if I uncomment that, then CTO component. Yeah, I can. So this has been installed. And yeah, you can see that the pods on the cluster has been created. Yeah, and from the provisioning part, yeah, so underneath we use Terraform for managing the infrastructure. So that's why the Tinkerbell Terraform Provider. And yeah, like here in the logs, you can see that like I'm downloading Docker Compose, and then I'm running the setup SH script from the sandbox, like downloading OSI image, generating the certificates, building all the Docker containers, and so on and so on.
Can you show that module? The one that's using the Tinkerbell?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is the Tinkerbell sandbox, which creates like the network pool and the provisioner. So yeah, also volumes for the like versus the configuration, and yeah, I think like the shit. 1 second. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so like the biggest magic is here basically. So the like remote exec provisioner, which sets everything up.
Is there a part where you're using the Tinkerbell Terraform Provider?
No, sorry. So the provider is here in the worker module. So this is like a separate which just registers machines to Tinkerbell. So yeah, here I basically like create a disk image. I generate the MAC address for the machine. I create the machine. Yeah, and here I finally use the Tinkerbell provider to to register the hardware. And then there is a second part which actually consumes that. So here we have the modules for the platforms. So if you go to the controller and here, then yeah, you can see that this is the module which generates the container Linux configuration for the control nodes on Locomotive, and then this is passed to the Tinkerbell template. Because each node gets different configuration usually, or at least for the control nodes, and then based on this template, the workflow is created, which provisions the machine. Yeah.
Hey, Matt, where are these services running?
Sorry?
Where are these services running of the provisioner Tink service, Tink server, and the Postgres SQL, all those core services of the Tink server?
Yeah, so if you use the sandbox we use on CI, everything runs on like libvirt, so locally in the virtual machines. Yeah, like you can have it running anywhere, right?
Okay, and are they Docker containers or in the pod form?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
So I'm asking that these services, are they running in the container form or in the pod form?
So from like the Tinkerbell server and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're running as the Docker containers, like as the sandbox project is doing that. So yeah, so if we SSH to the provisioner node, provisioner machine, then yeah, here you can see all the containers running. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just one thing to know. You filed an issue regarding when you destroy using Terraform, and you get sometimes you got some error regarding the read and write operation performing at the same time.
Yeah, I reported that, and I also have like a client-side workaround for it, like to make it stable enough so I can put that on the CI.
Okay, so could you please explain that issue a bit?
Yeah, so like I'm not an expert on the PostgreSQL, but from what I've read, the PostgreSQL on sandbox environment runs in the most strict mode in terms of the database transactions. So if there are like two transactions going in parallel, then the first one will pass and the other one will be rejected. And PostgreSQL documentation says that in such case, the client to the database, so in this case, Tinkerbell server should just retry the operation. And yeah, so this is not implemented. That's why like the Tinkerbell server returns the error. So I just do the retry on the client side, which is not ideal, but yeah, it works around the issue.
Yeah, got that. Thanks. So I'm actually I was looking into it. So now I have an idea like what is wrong with it. So maybe I can I'll start fixing it once. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I can send you a link to the commit which I implemented, which sure. I don't know, like if it's not great probably, but it solves the problem for me.
Sure.
Just sort of like a general, what would you say the benefit is of using Tinkerbell in this workflow, since you have Terraform already, you're using libvirt already, you could feed jobs to libvirt through Terraform some other way. Like, what advantage do you see in doing this with Tinkerbell?
So the libvirt sandbox, so the using libvirt is only for testing. So I've tried like doing like all of this testing natively on Packet machines, but I had some like stability issues that the machines didn't always boot from iPXE as I would expect, and I had to reboot them manually. So that's why I just dropped this and decided to use libvirt, because like this turned out to be more stable. Yeah, and then of course it's a bit cheaper, right? Because you have just one machine which you're using. But yeah, so in general, like it's a bit it doesn't make much sense to use libvirt to that. It's like the round way to do things. Yeah, but the main point is to actually be able to create a clusters like functional Kubernetes cluster on the in the bare metal environment, right?
It's really cool. Thanks.
Excellent. That looks fantastic. So what's what are kind of the next steps that you're thinking in terms of where to take this next?
Yeah, so last week I opened the proposal in the Tinkerbell org to get the repository for the provider.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to get it like released under the organization and then pushed to the Terraform registry. So like this whole thing can be used like as easy as possible. Yeah, and I think the plan is to keep Tinkerbell as a supported platform in Locomotive. So yeah, we already support Matchbox for the bare metal, but like Tinkerbell seems like a very nice alternative.
Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you very much for that.
All right, thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, I will stop sharing.
Next on the agenda are a few things around the roadmap. I will quickly pop that up so people can see.
I can't stop sharing. That's interesting.
I believe you've stopped sharing now. I should. Can everybody see the roadmap?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. So the past few days, or the end of last week even, I started putting together a number of kind of simple issues, mainly all around starting to put together a sample library of workflows for a variety of different operating systems and a variety of different actions that have kind of been asked for from kind of the various people that we spoke to. So we already kind of have examples for things like Ubuntu and a couple of other bits and bobs, Debian, etc. But some of the people from a variety of kind of different backgrounds have asked for other things such as doing secure system wipes, firmware updates, being able to do some level of inventory, things like that. So we've put together kind of a list of samples that would be good for people to kind of look at. And if people have time to start kind of thinking about those, we're going to start fleshing out the roadmap over the next kind of coming weeks, which is basically going to be our focus kind of for Q4 as we start kind of stepping into that. So the roadmap's all public. If you go to the Tinkerbell org and then under projects, you'll find the roadmap, and that will start to be populated a little bit more over the coming days. So that's it from me from that perspective. Next on the list is Aman.
Yes. So as I have provided the link to the issue, so there was an issue opened. I think a month ago, that updating a template should also update the respective workflow, right? But actually this issue, I'm not sure whether we should have it or not, because when it was opened, in my opinion, at that time, I was not thinking of anything. So I was like, it should not be there, because it is like if you have created a workflow and there was some error in your template, you left something, or maybe some spelling mistake of actions or something, and you have already started that workflow, then that workflow is gonna fail, right? That workflow is already failed. So when you create or update the existing template, so in that case, your workflow, which is already in the failed condition, should not be updated, as far as I think, right? But there is a situation which recently came into my mind, that what if somebody would like to have scheduled workflow. So right now we do not have that thing in our mind, but yeah, we can have a kind of scheduled workflow. For example, I create a workflow today, and I would like to uh, run it after some time maybe, or I have hundreds of machines, and I would like to uh, run few workflows on few machines today and few workflows on some other machine maybe after that. Yeah, so that's the thing. So for scheduled workflow, this behavior should be there. So I would I was thinking of having a proposal on this, but I was thinking that first I should get the vote for this, that it should be there or not. So I was thinking to discuss in community channel that how many like people think that this should be required, or this should be there or not.
So yeah, I agree with you that I don't think we should be updating a workflow if its underlying template has changed, right? As far as we kind of thought from the beginning, like once the template has been rendered, it's set in stone, and it's kind of like infrastructure as code, right? You can think of it as that. It's done and done, right? If you've got a new template, you've got a new workflow. And I think to weigh in on the schedule thing, like my gut check is I think that should kind of be outside of Tinkerbell. Whatever kind of throws things into hardware definitions into Tinkerbell can also kind of kick off the scheduled workflows and kind of manage its configuration and its schedule separately. But I'm definitely open to kind of hearing alternatives.
Yeah, it also like so I'm not an expert with Tinkerbell, but it seems to me that like it's not the role of the server to update the workflows. So like the workflow should be sort of immutable, and if it fails, then it's up to the orchestrator to update the template and then create new workflow.
Okay, so it seems like that we should not implement this right now. We should be like close this issue for now, and then once we will have that behavior, maybe outside Tinkerbell or maybe inside Tinkerbell, that we will see. Uh, at that moment, then we can have a discussion on that, and then we can go ahead with this.
So I think one thing that will help too is I think it would help to better document that when you create the workflow, the templates are rendered at the time that you create the workflow. Because I think it can lead to some confusion right now if you don't kind of grok that concept to begin with.
Okay, so according to you, Jason, if I'm correct, should I put that document link here in the bug before closing it?
I'm fine with closing this one, but we probably want to track a different one to improve the documentation around that.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
I worry that we're going to lose this conversation if it's not tracked in this issue. So like, I think 3 different people here were in it disagreement with the intent here, but I think it would be nice to capture that in text responses.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Okay, cool. So the consensus is that this stays open until the documentation reflects the behavior, and then this will be closed.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
No worries. Next on the list is the Cloudflare CDN.
Yes, that's me. So we use Cloudflare internally, and I think last week we were talking about issues with Aussie being pretty large and kind of pretty far for many people, and so we've got a couple of issues kind of trying to get at that problem from different points, and I think another one is just kind of like throw a CDN in front of it. We will most likely use Cloudflare for that. Just throw it in front of S3 and maybe in front of the website too. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up and let everyone know that that's coming. We're waiting on kind of DNS to be able to move DNS over to Cloudflare. The person, Nathan, who registers the domain and all that is off on paternity leave. So, we'll be waiting on him to come back so we can kind of take that away from his bag of responsibilities. But it is coming soon.
Excellent.
And the Aussie knowledge transfer, I guess, would be on me too. I am not set up for it right now. I'm having computer issues, and I don't think it would be, very useful for me to just talk about it unless people want to just hear me talk. So I think we just should table this until next week.
I'm okay with that.
Unless there's any
That's
questions
fine, yeah.
and you guys just want me to answer that, that's fine too. But if you kind of want to like walk through anything like that, then I'd say let's wait for next week for that.
Yeah, sure. That's fine, I guess.
Fantastic. Okay. With that, we'll give it a minute or two to see if anybody has anything further that they want to raise.
I want to raise something that has nothing but the words I have.
Sure.
It's about Cloudinit. So, right. So Cloudinit allows operating systems to boot up and communicate with their metadata service. And once they've done that, they can self-configure themselves. It's something that we're looking to get figured out for Equinix Metal for Packet. But Tinkerbell's Heagle service is a descendant of that. And it's something that might also benefit Tinkerbell is if there was a Cloudinit provider for the Tinkerbell metadata service, so that if you boot up a raw Ubuntu, like an official full disk image of Ubuntu or Debian or anything else that supports Cloudinit, it would just work and talk to the metadata service and configure itself. There's other layers of that too, like when it reaches the metadata service, is it listening on a private IP or a public IP? If the way that Cloudinit works and metadata services work in some clouds is that they listen on the link local address space, which is available without any authoritative like DHCP telling you here's your address. I think maybe, I don't know if it's too early for Tinkerbell to worry about it, but I bring it up because Cloudinit support for Packet is going to be very similar to Cloudinit support for Tinkerbell. So it's something to maybe keep in the radar.
Absolutely. I think Heagle metadata service listens on the same IP address typically as the gateway that you are given.
No, Heagle has an anycasted IP address on all our facilities, and it's a single IP address. It is not on the same IP address as the gateway for your network config.
With Tinkerbell.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Most likely, yes. Most likely.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, this is something that I've been looking at from a bare metal kind of provisioning, from image-based provisioning as well. Typically, you would pass the address as part of the init RAM disk flags to where the config would normally live. So in this case, it should be passing it the address of the gateway that is given. And in theory, then it will basically just do a get as it comes up and pulls that data, and Cloudinit should crunch it. But
Yeah, so
it's
that would
certainly
only work if we had like the link local addressing in Tinkerbell, right, and listening on that, so that it can kind of the machine coming up is able to allocate IP address on its own behalf, right, and then be able to actually reach metadata. I think I've hacked around like another option where just like embedding the metadata into like a separate disk image. I've done that like on our servers to C3 medium to go from like Ubuntu to NixOS or something. And it worked. It was pretty cool. It worked, but I don't know how difficult it will be to try to kind of hack something like that in for a bunch of other machine types and kind of be pretty generic. Definitely, like the link local IP address is the easiest, kind of most future-proof way to go about it, I think.
cool. So that's something that definitely needs kind of a bit more investigation kind of moving forward. It's good we've captured that. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up before we kind of close the call? Going once, going twice. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining today's call. Thank you very much for the demonstrations and the conversations that we've had around a variety of topics. The recording, once Mara's finished with it, we'll get it uploaded onto the YouTube channel. And with that, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, and bye, and speak to you all next time.